I am 92 years old, and I am tired. Not the kind of tired a nap fixes, not the kind you sleep off. I mean tired down in the marrow, the kind that comes from holding a truth so long your body starts treating it like it is part of you. My husband, Walter Brooks, had another family, a whole nother daughter. I found out in 1980, and I kept that secret for 46 years. 2 weeks ago, that daughter, a grown woman named Renee Lane, knocked on my front door. She is 59 years old, and now my children finally know who their father was. And if I am being honest, they are also learning who I became because of it. Walter and I got married on September 18, 1954, at a small brick church in Baltimore, where the pews creaked when you sat down and the choir sang like they were trying to lift the roof with their voices. I was 20. Walter was 22. He had that kind of charm that made people relax around him. He laughed with his whole chest. He remembered names. He looked at you like you mattered, even if you were just the person behind the counter. Everybody knew he was handsome. My mother knew it. The pastor knew it. The women in the kitchen after service knew it. They used to say, "That boy is going to break some hearts." That was part of the problem, but I did not understand it then. We moved into a row house on Ashland Avenue. Same house I am sitting in right now. Same kitchen, same window, same view of the street where I have watched children grow up, move away, and come back with children of their own. We had Daniel in 1956, Teresa in 1959, Kevin in 1962, Elaine in 1965. 4 children, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. You learn how to share space, and you learn how to act like you are not tired. When you are young, you think love is enough. You think love will cover bills, love will quiet doubts, love will keep a man where he promised he would stay. Let me tell you something I have earned the right to say. Love without honesty is a pretty house with termites. It looks solid until you lean on the wrong wall. Walter worked for the city transit garage most of his life. He started as a bus mechanic and moved up to supervisor. He came home smelling like oil and rubber and diesel, that bitter smell that clings to a man's hands no matter how hard he scrubs. He coached neighborhood baseball. He fixed porch steps for older folks without being asked. At church, people loved him. Men clapped him on the back. Women called him dependable. The pastor used him as an example in sermons, the way people do when they want the whole room to feel guilty. And Walter was good to our children. He taught Daniel how to shave. He showed Kevin how to change a tire. He walked Teresa down the aisle. He held Elaine's hand when she was scared of the dentist. I am not going to sit here at 92 and pretend none of that was real. Walter could be good, but you know what I have learned after living this long? Sometimes the people everybody loves have that much love going around because they are spreading it in places they have no business spreading it. It was November of 1980. I remember because Elaine was at the kitchen table cutting fabric for a school costume, frustrated because her glitter kept falling off. Teresa had music playing in the living room. Kevin was out with friends. Daniel was working late, trying to save money to move out. Walter was supposed to be at a meeting. He had been having a lot of meetings that year, meetings that ran long, meetings that popped up last minute, meetings that somehow always ended with him coming home too calm for a man who claimed he was exhausted. Now listen to me. I am not a fool. I have been stubborn. I have been scared. I have been angry, but I have never been a fool. A woman knows when the air in her own house changes. People will tell you you are imagining things. They will tell you you are tired and making up stories. But a woman knows. That night, I did something I had never done in 26 years of marriage. I went through his coat pockets. I am not proud of it. It felt like trespassing. It felt like stepping over a line. I promised myself I would never cross. But my stomach had been in a hard knot for months, and I needed a name for what I was swallowing every day. I found a photograph. A little girl, maybe 13 or 14, standing in front of an apartment building I did not recognize. Braids, a wide smile, and Walter's eyes, those deep brown eyes with the small crinkles at the corners, the kind that look like kindness to strangers. On the back, in Walter's handwriting, it said, Renee, age 14, August 1980. I sat down right there at this table while my child kept cutting fabric, humming to herself, and I stared at that picture like it was a trap door that opened in my kitchen floor. I did not scream. I did not throw anything. I did not run outside and make a scene. I just thought very calmly, so this is what 26 years gets you. Walter came home after 11. I was sitting in the dark in the living room. No lamp, no television, just me, and the sound of the house settling, and the clock ticking like it was counting down my life 1 second at a time. He turned on the light and saw me holding the photograph. His face collapsed. That is the only word for it. Like watching a wall come down. He opened his mouth, and I could see the lie forming, and then it died right there, because the picture was already in my hand. He said, Margaret, let me explain. I said, you have one chance, Walter. One. Her name was Cynthia Lane. She lived across town in a neighborhood I only ever drove through when I was lost and too proud to admit it. He had been seeing her since 1966, 14 years. Renee was born in 1966. My husband had a daughter living 20 minutes away, and he had been moving between two families like it was a normal part of his schedule, like we were shifts, not lives. But the affair is not what I kept secret for 46 years. It is what I did next. Because finding out about Cynthia did not change me all by itself. What I chose to do next is what changed everything. I should have left. I know that. You are thinking it, and you are not wrong. But listen to me. It was 1980. I was 46 years old with 4 children between 15 and 24. I had not worked outside the home in years. Walter liked me home. Walter liked dinner on the table and the laundry folded and the children handled so he could play hero when he walked through the door. The house was in his name. The savings was in his name. The car was in his name. Everything important had his name on it like a stamp, and my name was just there on paper like decoration. And in our world, a woman who left her husband did not get sympathy. She got a verdict. They would have said, I could not keep my man. They would have said, a good wife does not let her husband wander. They would have looked at me like I was the reason the sin happened. That is how it was. So I stayed, but I made conditions. I told Walter he would sign the house into my name. I told him he would put $300 every month into an account with only my name on it. And I told him he would never see that woman or that child again. Or I would stand up in church on Sunday morning in front of everybody who had been praising him for years, and I would tell the whole congregation exactly what kind of man they had been calling a blessing, Walter cried. He got down on his knees on my living room carpet. He swore on our children. He said he was sorry. He said it was over. And I wanted to believe him so badly I could taste it. At 92 years old, I can tell you the most dangerous thing in the world is a woman who wants to believe her husband. We will build a whole life out of maybe and then act surprised when it collapses. After that night, I became a different woman. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way that settled into my bones. I got hard. I started watching everything. Phone calls, late nights, money, stories that did not line up clean. I ran my house like a warden because I was terrified that if I blinked, it would all come apart again. And the thing about living like that is you do not just punish the person who hurt you. You punish everybody who lives near your fear. My children did not understand why their mother was always tense, why I snapped over small things, why my laugh disappeared, why my eyes never rested. Kevin said to me one day, Mama, Daddy is the one who holds this family together, not you. He was 16. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and say, you have no idea what I am holding together. But I did not. I told him to take out the trash and do his homework, because when you are swallowing the truth, you turn the truth into chores. Teresa cut the deepest, and she did not even know she was doing it. She was grown, getting ready to go out, hair done, lipstick perfect. We argued about something small, and she looked at me like I was a stranger and said, Mama, why are you so mean? Daddy is never like this. What happened to you? What happened to me? Like I woke up one morning and chose to be cold. Like I was not standing guard over their whole life so they could keep believing their father was a good man. And Walter stayed Walter to the outside world, smiling, shaking hands, being charming, being the man everybody loved. I became the woman everybody tiptoed around. For years, I told myself at least he felt guilty. At least it bothered him. Because there were moments, little cracks, that I did not understand at the time. One winter night in the mid-'80s, he came home late and sat in the car with the engine off for a long time. I watched from this window. I thought he might be sick. I thought he might be drunk. When he finally came inside, his eyes were red, but he did not smell like alcohol. He washed his hands at the sink for a long time, longer than any grease required. I asked him what was wrong. He looked at me like he was standing at the edge of a cliff. For 1 second I thought, he is going to tell the truth. Then he swallowed and said, "Nothing, just tired." Another time, I found a crumpled church bulletin in the trash with writing on the back in his handwriting. Not a list, not a note for work, just one sentence. I need to tell Margaret before it kills me. When I asked him about it, he snatched it out of my hand like it burned him. He said he did not know what I was talking about, and he tore it into tiny pieces and dropped them into the sink like confetti nobody wanted. I should have taken that as proof that guilt is not the same as change. But when you want to believe a person, you will use even their shame as evidence they are still good. Here is the part that still tightens my throat. Walter never stopped seeing Cynthia. Not for a week, not for a month, not for a year. He signed the house over, yes. He put $300 into my account, yes. And I felt proud of that, like I had protected myself. But while I was pinching pennies for school shoes, he was giving Cynthia more. More money, more time, more softness than he ever gave me after I found out. He looked me in the eyes, cried on my carpet, promised me the world, and then walked right back across town and kept living his double life. For decades after I found out, he played me, and I turned myself into somebody my own children did not even like, trying to hold a marriage together that was already gone. That is the part I could not forgive, not the affair. The fact that I became the villain in my own home, protecting a lie that was not even working. Walter died 17 years ago, a heart attack at a retirement banquet for the transit department. A room full of men slapping each other on the back, telling the same stories they had been telling for 40 years, laughing like time was still on their side. The funeral was packed. The pastor called him faithful, reliable, a pillar. I sat in the front pew in my black dress, hands folded, and I did not cry, not one tear. Elaine squeezed my hand during a hymn and whispered, "It is okay to cry, Mama." I said, "I know," but I did not, because I had used up all my crying on Walter a long time ago, and he never even knew it. After he passed, my children drifted, not all at once, not dramatically, just little by little. Daniel moved south. Teresa went up toward Pennsylvania. Kevin took a job far away. Elaine stayed closest, but even she started calling less. Sunday calls that lasted 10 minutes. She would ask about my blood pressure. I would ask about her work. and we would both pretend that was a real conversation. I have been alone in this house for 17 years. Most days, the only voice I hear is my own. And you do not want to be the only person listening to yourself at 92. 2 weeks ago, on a Saturday morning, I was in my chair doing the crossword. I do it every day. It keeps my mind sharp. At this age, you keep your mind sharp, or it will leave without you. Then someone knocked on my front door. Not a soft neighbor knock, not a polite tap, a real knock, firm, like whoever it was had decided they belonged. I opened the door, and there was a woman on my porch, 59 years old, medium build, gray starting to show at the roots, hands held together like she was trying to keep them from shaking. And I knew before she spoke, because she had Walter's eyes. She swallowed and said, "My name is Renee Lane. I believe my father was Walter Brooks." I stood there long enough for cold air to slip into the hallway behind me. Then I said, "I know who you are. Come inside." Renee sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I held that photograph 46 years ago. I made coffee. My hands shook, so I used both hands like I was carrying something fragile. She told me about her mother, Cynthia, how Cynthia worked nights for years, how she cleaned houses during the day and came home smelling like bleach and tiredness and still tried to make dinner feel like love. Renee told me Walter showed up in pieces. Not every day, not at the right times, not openly, but he showed up. He took her to the park. He bought school shoes once when Cynthia could not. He sat in the back of a school play and left before anyone could ask his name. He gave her birthday cards, signed carefully, with no return address. He loved her in a way that did not cost him his reputation. That is the truth of it. Walter wanted to be seen as good more than he wanted to be good. Renee brought photographs, a few cards, proof enough to make my stomach drop, not because I doubted her, but because it made the years feel even uglier. Before she left, she said, "I did not come here to cause trouble. I just wanted to know where I came from." And I looked at her, at this person who never asked for any of it, and I felt something I did not expect. I was not angry at her. I was sorry. Because Walter failed every single one of us. Every single one. That evening I called Elaine. I said, "Baby, I need you to come over. There is something I should have told you a very long time ago." Elaine came quickly. She took one look at my face and sat down without me even asking. I told her everything. 46 years broken open at this table over 2 cups of coffee that went cold because neither one of us could drink. Elaine did not speak for a long time. Then she said, "So all those years, that is why you were always watching, always suspicious, always angry." I said, "Yes." And she started crying, not the polite kind, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, from a place you did not know was holding grief. She said, "Mama, I told you. I told you Daddy was a good one. I said, I know. She said, why did you not tell us? And I said, the only honest thing I had left. Because I wanted you to have a father, even if it cost you a mother. Elaine reached across the table and took my hands. She held on like I might disappear. Daniel called the next day. He was quiet, which is not like Daniel. He said, Mama, I owe you an apology. I spent most of my life thinking you were the problem. I said, you were a child. Children believe what they see. Teresa cried on the phone and kept saying, Mama, you should have left him. And she was right. But being right and being able are two different things, and I wish more people understood that. Kevin did not call. Not at first. He was always Walter's boy, followed him around like a shadow. I imagine this truth feels like somebody pulled the floor out from under the house he built his whole life on top of. A few days later, Renee called and asked if she could come back. She said she did not bring everything the first time. She said she did not know if I would slam the door in her face. She said she did not want to be treated like the sin instead of the person. I told her to come. When she arrived, she carried a worn envelope. Not fancy, not dramatic, just paper that looked like it had been handled and hidden and handled again. She set it on my kitchen table and said, my mother kept this in a tin box with her important papers. She never opened it. She said she did not want to read his cowardice and call it a gift. After she died, I found it and I did not know what to do with it. But when I came here and saw you, I knew it was not only mine. It was addressed to me in Walter's handwriting. Margaret Brooke. My hand shook when I picked it up, because suddenly I was back at this window watching him sit in the car with his head down. Suddenly I was remembering that church bulletin sentence. Suddenly I was remembering all the times he stood at the edge of honesty and stepped back. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter dated a few months before he died. It was not a neat confession written to save his soul at the last second. It read like something a man wrote and rewrote and still could not say out loud. He wrote that he tried more than once to tell me, and every time he saw the children at the table and lost his nerve. He wrote that he convinced himself silence was protection. He wrote that he told himself he could keep both worlds from colliding if he managed it carefully enough, like steady hands could defeat gravity forever. He wrote that he hated himself after nights he left Cynthia's place, because he would drive home and see my kitchen light on and realize he was walking into a home built by a woman he did not deserve. He wrote that he loved Renee, and that love did not make him brave, it made him greedy. And then he wrote the sentence that cracked something in me. I did not want to be the villain, so I made you carry the villainy for me. I sat at this table holding that letter, and I did not feel relief. I felt rage. Because that letter proved what I always suspected. Walter knew. He knew he was letting the children believe I was the hard one, the cold one, the problem. He knew. and he still chose the easier road over and over again until the road became his life. Elaine comes every Saturday now. We do the crossword together. She is terrible at it, but I do not tell her that. Daniel says he is coming next month with grandchildren I have never met because life moved fast while we were all pretending nothing was wrong. Teresa says she wants to meet Renee. She says, if she is our sister, then she is our sister. Kevin called last night. He did not apologize. Not yet. He just said, Mama, I do not know what to do with this. And I told him the truth. I said, neither did I. That is why it took us so long to get here. Ashland Avenue, more than 70 years, in the same house, same kitchen, same window, but when my daughter holds my hands at this table, I am not the mean one anymore. I am not Walter's wife. I am just Mama, and I have been waiting a very long time to be that again. If you made it to the end, thank you for sitting with this. If you want more true-to-life stories like this, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments.